Hi guys, this is Bison, your host, and today I've got a World Championship battle between Anatoly Karpov and Viktor Korchnoi, which was played in 1978. And in this game, Karpov slowly sets a deadly trap around Korchnoi's king. Everything looks under control until Karpov starts throwing his pieces into the attack like a madman. The final combination is absolutely shocking. So stay till the end. Let's just jump straight into the game. Okay, so game starts with e4, e5 by Korchnoi, knight to f3 attacking the pawn, knight to c6, and after that bishop to b5, which is known as royal opes, but a6 attacking the bishop, which is called Morphy defense. So Karpov brings his bishop to a4, but then knight to f6 attacking the e4 pawn, but he just decides to castle, and after that knight takes e4, and now Karpov strikes in the center with d4, and you can see in the next move he's going to push d5. So that's why b5, I mean he just attacks the bishop, so bishop goes to b3 and then d5. I mean he just defends the bishop if white just plays rook to e1, but d takes e5 and then bishop to e6, because previously this queen and this bishop was targeting this pawn. But knight at b goes to d2. He wants to exchange this active knight of black, so that's why Korchnoi brings it back to c5, and now he is attacking this active bishop. But c3, preparing for knight to d4, which will be the best outpost for this knight. But in this position, black can now consider this move, which is d4, counter-attacking into the white's position, as well as asking for bishop exchange. And let's say if bishop takes e6, then knight takes e6, c takes d4, knight takes d4, knight takes d4, queen takes d4. And let's say if he brings his knight to b3 so that he can target this queen, then queen takes e5. And let's say if white develops his queen to f3 so that he can attack this rook. But guys, now I just want you all to pause the video and just try to think what can black play in this position. I mean, you can just make a guess also. And guys, here the best move for black is to castle long side. And I know this move might shock you at first because it looks like a silly move. I mean, as you can see, black queen side structure is very poor. So what's the point of castling queen side? Because now white can give a check from a8 square. And after, let's say, this king goes to d7, then queen takes a6. And after that, you can see in the next move, rook to d1 is coming. So, and I mean, it looks like this is completely losing for black. But guys, in reality, that's the whole plan. Yes, because black actually wants white to attack his king, because under the cover of that attack, black will activate his pieces. Didn't get it? Wait, let me explain. First of all, black is going to develop his bishop to d6, threatening mate on h2 as so as you can see, this move bishop to d6 by which now black is threatening mate on h2, as well as this move also stops rook to d1. But so as you can see, since this is attacked, so now the move g3 is forced. But again, pause the video and try to guess the next move which black can play in this position. And guys, the move is queen to d5. The idea is to control this b7 square, which is the only escape square for the white's queen. And on the next move, you can see rook to a8 is coming, which will completely trap the queen. So now, let's say if white tries to bring his queen to a5 so that he can escape, but now black is going to attack from the king side with h5, with the idea of h4 so that he can, destroy the king side structure. And let's say to stop this, if white pushed h4, but then rook to a8, attacking the queen. So that's why obviously this queen has to move. So let's say if he goes to c3, then rook to a4. And now you can see black successfully activates all of his pieces with a completely dominating position. And obviously no human in this earth can calculate this type of variation. So that's why in the game after the move c3, yep, so let me go back. Yep. So in this position here, Viktor plays g6, which simply indicates he wants to put his dark square bishop to g7. And guys, here the best move for white is to bring this bishop to c2. Yes, so that he can launch an attack from the queen side. But after the move g6, yeah, let me go back. So here Karpov plays queen to e2. And basically he wants to keep an eye on his central pawn, but bishop to g7. And I mean, he just brings his bishop, but then knight to d4, putting pressure on the c6 knight. So that's why knight takes e5. He just grabs the pawn. But then f4. I mean, just look at this attack. And since this knight is attacked, so he brings it on c4. But guys, here knight to d3 might be the best option, because if this knight, comes to d3, then obviously it will cover the most important squares where, like this rook can't come there, and this rook also can't go to f2, which will be the best move. Because now f5, I mean, he just attacks the king side and also the bishop. So that's why g takes f5 is forced, but then knight takes f5. And you can see now, basically Karpov is attacking this bishop. So to defend this, rook to g8, but then knight takes c4, d takes c4, and since this bishop is attacked, so Karpov brings it on c2, which also keeps an eye on the knight. But guys, let me go back. Yeah, so here the best move for white is, I mean, it looked like shocking, but here the best move for white is to play queen to g4. And now white is threatening, as you can see, knight takes g7 check. So now there are two options for black. The first one is to play queen to f6 so that he can defend this bishop. But then white is going to play bishop to c2. And on the next move, you can see this dark square bishop is going to come on h6, which is going to disrupt the white king side structure. And as you can see, this queen side is also not in a good condition because of these pawns. So let's say after queen to g4, yeah. So let's say if he goes for a move like c takes b3, I mean, he just decides to grab this bishop, but then knight takes g7 check. And here the best move for black is to capture this knight with the rook, because obviously he can't move his king to e7 due to the threat of bishop to g5. And obviously king to d7 is also not possible because of rook to d1 check. And after king to c6, you can see, I mean, he's going to grab this queen, right? No, because as you can see, black bishop is also targeting the white's queen. So first of all, knight takes e6, attacking the queen. And after, let's say, rook takes g4, then knight takes d8 check, king to b6, and finally bishop to e3, putting the pressure on this knight. And I mean, in the next move, this rook can come to d5, and you can see this is completely winning for white. Okay, so in the game after bishop to c2, yeah, let me go back. So in this position, here Viktor brings his knight to d3. I mean, he just blocks the diagonal of this bishop, and you can see this knight is in a very good square. But bishop to h6. Here Karpov plays an interesting move, because obviously he wants to bring his knight to h6 so that he can put some pressure on this f7 pawn supported by the rook. So let's say, so here he brings his bishop back to f8, but then rook at a goes to d1. He just pins the knight. But queen to d5, I mean, he just brings his queen into the game, and now you can see he is attacking this knight. So that's why bishop takes d3, c takes d3, rook takes d3, attacking the queen. So, and guys, let me tell you that this is the most crucial point of this game, because here Viktor brings his queen to c6. Yeah, and the problem with that move is after bishop takes f8, which is actually played in this game. And let's see in this position, if let's say black recaptures this bishop with the king, but now white is going to play knight to d4, attacking the queen and the bishop. And let's say if this queen goes to b7, then knight takes e6 check. And you can see now there is mate in 3. So that's why, let me go back to the move rook takes d3. Yeah, let me go back. So that's why in this position here, the best move for black is to bring this queen to b7. Because now let's say if white decides to exchange the bishop, I mean, if he follows the same variation, king takes f8 and now knight to d4. But as you can see, now this queen is not on c6. So now black can bring his bishop to c4, forking the rook, queen, and again, I mean, what a move. So that's why in the actual game, after bishop takes f8, I mean, let me go back. Yeah, so as you can see, this position, so in this position here, instead of he decides to give a check from b6 square, and after king to h1, then king takes f8. And guys, now pause the video again and just try to find the winning move for white. And guys, the move is rook to d7. The idea is to deflect the bishop so that he can mate the black king on e7. But in the game, after king takes f8, here Karpov plays queen to f3, and and now here the best square for this king is so as you can see, this is attacked. So the best move is to bring this rook to b8 so that he can start launching an attack from the queen side. But instead he decides to bring his rook to e8, and that's a mistake because this move also takes away the king's only escaping square. And after seeing that, Karpov just launches his attack with knight to h6, putting huge amount of pressure on f7. And in the next move, white is going to sack his queen on f7 with the idea of rook takes f7 mate. I mean, if he's not careful and he plays the move like this, then obviously takes, and you can see that's a mate. So obviously he's not going to, getting into this trap. So that's why he plays rook to g7. But guys, in this position here, Karpov finally played rook to d7, and you can see what's coming next. So to stop this, black can now bring his rook to e7, but instead he plays rook to b8. And guys, in this position, finally Karpov decides to take on f7. Just look at the attack, which is, it is just crazy. And now, if black decides to slide his king to g8, then knight to h6 check, king to h8, queen to f6, pinning the rook as well as threatening mate. So to defend this, rook to g8, but then queen to e5, and you can see in the next move this rook is going to come on f8, which puts immense pressure on this, pressure on this black king. And you can see this is completely winning for white. But after knight takes f7, here Viktor plays bishop takes f7. He decides to grab this rook, and now knight to d8 check, a discovered check by the queen. And obviously this king can't go towards g8 due to the threat of queen to f8 mate. And let's say, so here black can delay this mate with the move like bishop to f5, because if takes, then king to e8, queen to f8 check, king to d7, queen takes g7 check, king to c8, like that. But obviously this is also losing. But in the game, after knight to d8 check, here Viktor blunders with king to e7, and that's a blunder because Karpov just mates him on f8, which is a mate. And guys, what a finish by Karpov. The way he kept increasing the pressure, sacrificed his knight, and then found knight to d8 check, followed by queen to d8 is simply beautiful. And Korchnoi's king is now had nowhere to run. What a game, guys. What a game by our legendary Anatoly Karpov. Like this video and I will see you in the next one. This is your host Bison signing off. Bye bye.